Hello, hello. Okay, sorry. My laptop was glitching earlier, and I was not recording for like 5 minutes, which is really annoying because now we gotta start from the top. Um, Good morning again. It is April 7th. It's about 9:30 a.m. It's been a while since I posted. My last video was on the first, and it is now the 7th. 6 days. What happened? So much for that routine, right? Um, okay, so basically here in San Diego, it's Tuesday, and we are in the midst of what would be a typical San Diego storm, which is not really a storm at all. It's just a couple of days of rain, a couple high winds at night, etc., etc. It's not much, but that means now I'm really stuck inside. Um, my walks for the last 5 days or 6 days I haven't posted have been really consistent. The timing's been really good. I've actually been kind of on the ball as far as waking up, leaving at a certain specific time, 1 hour or the other, and making it back in less than 2 hours, which is really nice. Um, yeah, that whole physical thing is really nice. But now that I'm stuck inside, now we get to catch up. You viewers, all five of you maybe, and myself. Um, what have I been up to? Game of Thrones. Been watching Game of Thrones with my girlfriend. We are on season 5. Still just as good. I'm glad I'm glad that I'm binging it, so to speak. I think if I was, I hate waiting week after week watching one episode at a time. Just give it to me in one big lump. Anyways, I don't know if I talked about it here. Some of my favorite characters there. Uh, Tyrion, Tyrion Lannister, the imp, the midget, the guy he's clever, he's witty, he knows how to maneuver between all the major political players in the show, so to speak. He's awesome. Um, Second to that, obviously Daenerys Targaryen, Mother of Dragons, Khaleesi. That put Emilia Clarke on my top 5, so to speak. I think her kind of trajectory throughout the whole arc is just one of up and coming and one of like learning. I know more or less how she ends up, but I still like watching the development. After that would be Arya Stark, and watching her, like the little girl, kind of grow up in a very cruel world and how she kind of deals with it. It's yeah. I'm at the point. I know she becomes a full-on assassin, but I just don't know how it plays out. I'm at the part where season 5, where she finally catches up to that um, assassin guy who she freed, and then she realized he was some sort of assassin because whenever she'd give a name, he'd murder that dude like whenever basically she'd say it, which is kind of cool in that kind of sense. Um, yeah, I gotta leave that top 3. I don't want to talk about that too much. Aside from that, I'm about to wrap up Clone Wars from Disney Plus. This is the animated series from Disney that took place between episodes 2 and 3. So for those of you who are okay, I'll dive into this a little bit. For you Star Wars fans, Clone Wars, the cartoon series, there are a series of battles again between episodes 2 and 3. 2 being where Anakin and Obi-Wan are like kind of a duo, and they uncover the makings of a clone army that they didn't know was going on. And then episode 3 is essentially kind of the end of the war, where Anakin kills Count Dooku, and as the movie goes, kind of shows Anakin's decline into the dark side. Clone Wars is kind of in between, where they're able to kind of stretch it out and develop characters that in a way that you kind of never really seen. So you see kind of a grown-up Anakin before he turns I mean, Christian Haydenson. I don't know. I can't say his name. The guy who sounds like a sniveling baby throughout those movies. That animated Anakin is a little more gung ho because he's a general in the Clone Wars. So I mean that's kind of what I mean. As are most of the Jedi Council Jedi Masters. My by far favorite character from the Clone Wars is Ahsoka Tano, Anakin's Padawan, who kind of develops in the way that she grows up with the Jedi Order and the Jedi morals, but she's conflicted because as like a sentient being and dealing with other life throughout the galaxy, so to speak, that she realizes the Jedi Order is not all it's chalked up to be. And for those, she's essentially framed, and then I won't give it away. You gotta watch it if you like Ahsoka Tano. Clone Wars is a must. Especially, I think I also mentioned that before. Especially since she'll be making an appearance in season 2 of Mandalorian, casted hopefully by Rosario Dawson. Anyways, who else? Oh, one more brief thing. It shows the former love interest of Obi-Wan Kenobi in the form of Duchess Satine. Planet of Mandalore. There's a whole history behind it. Like, if you're into the Mandalorian, there's a couple YouTube videos which maybe if I can find a link to them, I'll post them. But it'll give you a brief surface skim of Mandalorian history. This is where the planet of Mandalore is in a pacifist stage, and the Duchess Satine is the head of the planet, and she is kind of like the Padme to Obi-Wan Kenobi. But this is also she's the Padme to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and there's a love interest there, but they don't pursue it because Obi-Wan is the better tuned Jedi Knight than Anakin, who's a little more compulsive in a sense, a little more rogue, a little more unorthodox. Obi-Wan's more of the kind of genuine knight, and that kind of displays what that relationship would have looked like if Anakin was a more astute Jedi Knight. And there's that. There's also Return of Darth Maul, who's also very interesting, and a bunch of other characters which, if you can muscle through the cartoon, I know that's one aspect of it, but if you can muscle through all that, the character development and how it plugs into the whole Star Wars canon line, especially with the whole Mandalorian type theme being predominant amongst Disney's cash cow. Definitely look into it. 7 seasons, a lot to binge watch. I mean, yes. Many of us are on week 3. This is week 2 of not working. Obviously, I'm very productive in that sense, or not at all, depending how you look at it. Let's see. Oh yeah, I decided instead of just brief updates, I'll also get into something. And I just posted something on Facebook, which maybe you guys have seen it. It's this list of 10 things that you don't like, that you perceive are popular. Or I think the official thing is like 10 unpopular opinions or something. Anyways, 10 things I don't particularly like, but I perceive that are popular in broader society. So, let's just go down this list. I guess I have it in a list, but they're not in any particular order. First on the list, although I say first, it's not like number 1. I don't hate it the most. White Claws. Yeah, I'm sorry. My girlfriend loves White Claws. I am not a fan of it. They offer a drink. I'll take a sip, but I'm always consistently disappointed. Maybe this is the beer enthusiast of me, where I've become a hardcore either stout, like high percentage alcohol stout, or high percentage double IPA, the hardcore hop that just bite into your tongue. Yeah, White Claws, you may as well just give me water. Crocs. I don't know what it is with Crocs. Maybe because I see so much from the Burlington that I can't imagine, like, why would people wear this? I mean, aside from the fact that they're only like $5 pairs of shoes, why? You just go to Seafood City, buy a pair of sandals, called flip-flops because they make that sound, and you may as well just do that. I had a manager at SeaWorld who liked to wear Crocs when he knew his bosses weren't working that day, and I thought it was ridiculous. Like that, whatever. Smart devices. I don't hate them per se. I think they're a good thing in general. But maybe coming from firsthand how the household here handles it, it is it's not all that it's cracked up to be. When I hear my stepmom shout 10 times a night, Alexa, turn off living room light, and it never works. Maybe one because she's not saying it right, and I'm going to stop. More or less, I think it's a good thing. I feel like it's on the same note as, say, having a smartphone and being able to Google things, but there is kind of a counterintuitive notion to having things at a moment's notice that it kind of dulls you as like a person. If that makes any sense. I feel like there's a lot that I could delve on, but I'll leave it at that for now. The next two are car brands. One would be BMWs. I'm sorry. I'm going to make a blanket statement, which I'm not a fan of, but for the most part, if you like, okay, I won't say if you drive a BMW, you're a douchebag, but a lot of BMWs I see, 9 out of 10, 95% out of, 95 out of 100, they drive like douchebags, whether they don't stop, whether they speed, whether they don't signal. I'm sorry. Maybe I look for it. Maybe it's a stigma, that's it, but I'm sorry. If that's not you, I highly doubt it. um, After that, I wrote on Teslas. If I had to compare the two, I don't rate Teslas as bad as say BM. I don't rate Tesla drivers as bad as BMW drivers. I think there's definitely different context to that. Tesla drivers are generally a little more safer. I think the reason why I don't like them is uh, whenever I do any long term driving on the freeway, maybe this is just me as a personal thing. My main thing on the freeway is if you're driving slow, you stay to the right. If you're driving fast, you stay to the left. If there's a conflict of speed, the one on the right, or the slower driver goes to the right, the faster driver goes to the left. How does that spell out in the end? Well, if you're on the fast lane and you're only going 70 miles an hour, you Tesla driver, you should probably move over. Anyways, I feel like there's a higher frequency that this could all be impressionistic. This could also be that when my girlfriend used to work in La Jolla and I go up there, there would be a lot of Tesla drivers up there, and there'd be a lot of shitty drivers around La Jolla. Maybe there's a general association of rich people and being douchebag drivers because they're better than everyone else, related to the relative area that I'm driving in. Maybe. I feel like that can be proven. I'm not going to because I don't see anything productive coming out of that. But yeah, I'm sorry, Tesla drivers. You're not as bad as BMW drivers, although I'm highly suspect of you. Next on the list. So I went through 5 things: White Claws, Crocs, smart devices, BMWs, BMW drivers, and Tesla drivers. So 6, but not in any particular order again. Reality TV. I've had my fair share of reality TV. My girlfriend loves reality TV. Kardashians. There's that show where they have where people marry, like, find foreign lovers, and they try to the show follows them to see how they work out. Yeah. I guess I enjoy it to a sense that when we go out, and we have cable, that's what she likes to watch, and I deal with it in the background. But could I sit down and just devote myself to it? No. On that note, my girlfriend's latest kick is the Miz and Mrs. That wrestling superstar. They're entertaining. Yeah, reality TV. Not a huge fan. Truck balls. Number 7. Oh, not in priority again. To me, that's like, what better way can you scream "I'm a douchebag" than have some sort of pair besides by having a pair of plastic balls hang at the back of your truck. Like, you want people to look at your balls? Was that vanity? I call it douchebaggery. Whatever. If I'm in a really bad mood, I'll imagine taking giant bolt cutters and just... We'll spare society that much, huh? Next on the list, 3 to go. Vaping. Yes, this is also I perceive it as a type of vanity thing. Like, ooh, I can blow a bunch of smoke out my mouth and my nose, or out my nose in my mouth, and make a lot of, like, and everyone has to smell it. It's an attention thing. Compared to tattoos, if you will, I don't agree. Tattoos, you can keep to yourself, you can ignore it, you can close your eyes, you can cover it up. Vaping, when you do it, that's an act that's out there for everyone to see it. You cannot control it, and most of the times it's obnoxious. I don't like it. I don't hate it. I'm hating on it, but I don't hate you if you do it. It's just realize that you're in that category. I hope it's not any of you. Moving on. Generational biases. For me, what that means is whenever I read things, whenever I hear arguments, whenever I hear debates, whenever someone, I'll okay, this is where people start to denounce someone's credibility because they're from a certain generation. Majority of times, it's older people denouncing younger people for not knowing the difference, for not knowing any better. Well, the same is done. There is kind of a counter reaction for older people denouncing. There's a counter reaction for younger people denouncing older people, and I kind of perceive that as well. But this whole thing of denouncing each other just for being a different generation, I think is ridiculous. So, in that sense, whenever someone starts to drop the arguments, well, millennials do this, like as for someone of an older generation, there's no bigger way to show your ignorance than to say, I don't understand how you people live. It's like homie. Or homie. Yeah, homie. I don't know where I was going with that. But it's almost like, okay, so if you're that older generation and you're telling someone of a younger generation you don't know how you grew up, actually you do know how they grow up. You just choose not to see it. Or you're not recognizing it. Because you were alive the whole time, you jackass. Okay, I need to calm down because it's obviously gets me riled up. On the flip side, I'm sure you guys have heard the term "okay boomer." Again, a way like to discredit the old to discredit someone of an older generation because they're born of a certain generation or because they're older. I don't agree with that as well because it's on a principle stance. Although I'm more sympathetic to that. Not that I agree. I'm sympathetic to it in the sense that when used in context, an okay boomer dismisses a conservative notion from an older generation because the younger generation sees it a different way. Obviously, either way you look at it, there's a gap between perceptions. And the reason why I'm more sympathetic to the okay boomer thing is because when an older generation argues conservatism, the younger generation perceives, as if one was open-minded, they would perceives that the path that the older generation took is not sustainable. And I'm partial to that. Anyways, to delve into that would be political. I've kind of made a promise to stay away from it, but as you guys can see over and over, it starts to spill out over and over. So I will resist it as much as I can. But yeah, generational biases, if you do it, I don't like you. That's just putting it nicely. And the last one, this is similar to generational biases, as there's this notion that people are stupid. And I really gotta watch myself because this fires me up more than even generational biases. I'm not gonna say I don't understand why people say it. I do understand why people say it. And I don't like it entirely. This is why. So the context of people are stupid is usually a lack of information, a lack of explanation. When people perceive a phenomenon going on to other people around them, and they can't explain why they do it, right? So what's the quick and easy way to explain things? Well, people are dumb, and they just don't get it. There's so many ways to slice that. One, if you openly say that, acknowledge it, one, you are taking an elitist position, like you know better than what everyone else is doing. But let's put that in context for a second. If you're one person and you perceive what everyone else is doing is stupid, from a bird's eye perspective, could that make you not as equally stupid? Because if you're one person not doing what everyone else is doing, that would kind of isolate you, right? So from the outside looking in, you are that dumb person. Does that make sense? But let's not delve into that too much. I'm just kind of highlighting the irony when you say people are stupid, when one, you are part of those people. So it's almost like saying I'm stupid, which is essentially what you should be saying. But two, to that idea of the shallowness of being able to explain something. So to me, that's what gets it even more. It's like saying when you again, people are stupid. When you make that notion, you're basically saying you don't understand, you don't want to understand. This is your solution to it, and there's no reason why you should understand it. And what grander way to demonstrate your ignorance and those implications of just saying people are dumb. For me, I like to at least think about the possibilities of why someone or people would do certain things. I was gonna get into an example of something, but that would be too political. Can I do this? Do I have time? 20 minutes? Okay, I'll make this as short as possible if I can. My basic or my I need to calm down. I don't want to say too fast. I'm already speaking fast enough as it is. So my biggest example when it comes that's parallel to this whole people are stupid is when people say everybody stay indoors. It's not that hard. I'm shaking the camera. And you would think, yeah, it's not that hard. And in kind of basic terms, it really isn't. But are people like just blind robots that just simply stay indoors? No. There's every single human has an element of reason within them, and whatever conclusion they came to at a logical conclusion. Now, whatever that reasoning was could be faulty. If I came to conclusion X through A, B, and C, right? That would make sense. But what if my A, B, and C are not the same as, say, someone else's A, B, and C? Then the logical conclusion of X would definitely not be the same. I'm getting highly technical here. Try to bear with me if you will. So when someone says, stay inside, it's not that hard, they're assuming a set of instructions or logical conclusions of A, B, and C are the same. What I'm saying is, people aren't dumb. They've come to a conclusion one way. It's the A, B, and C which you're not understanding. But once you see the A, B, and C, these things that X that you don't agree with per se would make more sense. So, for example, to the thesis of stay inside, it's not that hard. A, B, and C would be like, just stay inside. It's for the greater good of things. You don't want to spread the virus. You want to protect the people who are most vulnerable. Yes, that makes sense. But what of someone else's A, B, and C? And I made a big post on Facebook about this. Maybe those of you who have me can kind of refer to it. But I mentioned that, well, staying inside, there's an element of cabin fever. And cabin fever is not really good for your mental health. And more authorities are starting to recognize this. But say, when you're inside and you're slowly going insane, which is why I'm even talking to a computer to help me keep my sanity, there's a lot of things that will build up to you that makes you need a lot of stresses that you deal with that you need to kind of express. And how people express these things, deal with these stresses are multiple ways. One of the easiest ways to deal with stress is to just go outside. So, I mean, some of the stresses some people do, again, something I've highlighted on my Facebook. One, I compared the notion to, well, if people don't even like working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, imagine staying in a place 16 hours a day, minus your 8 hours of sleep, 7 days a week. If you don't like working, you're definitely not going to like staying indoors all week. And imagine how you're going to react to that. It's not easy. I mean, you look at TikTok, for example, the things that shit that people do. You look at the young people, how they're dealing with it. And just to tie it back to generational, like, that's what they had to deal with. TikTok emerged out of a set of social conditions. And these young people are getting this attention because they're cooped up inside. If that's not, okay, I could. Another thing that people need to consider why it's hard to stay inside. One, if we're at home, like myself, we're probably worried about whether or not we're going to have a job in about a week. Some people don't have jobs ready. I'm sure they're concerned of how are they going to find work if most places aren't even open yet. Very few people have the luxury of working from home, or at least having their company pay for them because their company is on the generous side, which is not the norm, by the way. Would you just supposed to sit here and lay and just mind them off Game of Thrones and Clone Wars and just hope that everything will be okay? Like, no. It's worked to some degree, but those things quickly tap out. Three, one that doesn't apply to me, is if you've got kids. Shout out to all the teachers out there who have to deal with these elementary school kids 8 hours a day. Now, people who are not used to dealing with their kids in that kind of context, now they got to deal with their kids 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is not the same. I'm not going to attest to it on a personal level, but I can sympathize to that notion that, like, one kid's one thing, 2, 3, 4, Anyways, you take all these ideas between the whole being cooped up in a place for too long, cabin fever, between worrying about income and all that stuff, between dealing with kids, you're gonna want to go outside and just take a walk. Hell, I go outside and take a walk for 2 hours, and it's more or less kind of working. I can't imagine if you had literally had to deal with all these things. So no, I'm not saying everyone. I'm not giving a reason why people could go outside. I'm just explaining why it might not be as easy to just simply stay inside. Anyways, that's my example for the notion that people are being stupid. That went a lot longer than I thought. But just to quickly recap, 10 things I dislike that I perceive are more popular throughout society: White Claws, Crocs, smart devices, BMW cars / drivers, Tesla cars / drivers, reality TV, truck balls, vaping, generational. Sorry, counting my fingers wrong. Generational biases, and any notion that leads up to or supports the idea that people are stupid. On that note, I don't believe you guys are stupid. I believe you guys are very smart. Everyone has come to their conclusion in their own way, and we've used more or less the reason we've had as human beings. I believe this. See you guys tomorrow. Maybe a day later. Maybe 6 days later. We'll see how the weather holds up. Peace.